Hello, YouTube! Are you ready? My name is Ashley, and if you're watching this, I work for Disney, and I did a Disney Professional Internship, and I did a Disney College program, and welcome to my channel! For the last year and a half, I've been asking to do a video about resumes and cover letters, and now a year and a half later, I'm gonna finally do it. Now, this video is not only for people wanting to do a Disney Professional Internship, it's just resumes and cover letters overall, because the advice I'm going to give in this video is going to be honestly for any job that you apply outside of Disney too, anywhere in the world. I hope this video helps, but I'm going to give you all tips and tricks for resumes and cover letters. Now, by no means am I a recruiter. I'm not a recruiter. This is just advice I've been given to me, my own personal advice that I feel like has helped me, but I am not a recruiter. So, you know, if you do know a recruiter, see if they know any help. This is just my advice. Let's get started. The number one thing that I recommend to anybody applying for any job is to have like tons of people double check your resume and cover letter. Tons. Like every time I apply for a job, I send my resumes and cover letters to my parents, to my any of my family members. I send them to friends to have them look over, because you don't want any spelling errors at all. And honestly, if you send it to another person, they might have advice on how you can make your resume or cover letter better, besides this video. But they might have advice for you too. So please, if you're applying for any job, just send it to a bunch of people, get their advice. Also, if you are still in school and your school has a career center, use that career center. I know when I was applying for my Disney Professional Internship, I had my resume all written out. I had my cover letters all written out for each of the jobs that I was applying to. And I went to my career center and I was like, here, please just look over my resumes and cover letters. And they did. And they gave me some advice, which I'm gonna include in this video because it helps me to this day. But yes, visit a career center if your school has it. If not, just ask anybody around. If you are doing an internship right now somewhere else and you're applying somewhere for a different job, ask your boss. See, like, hey, I'm applying for this job. Can you please look over my resume and cover letter? Give me any advice that you have, and I'm sure that they will help you. Now, on to resumes. I'm gonna start with resumes first. First things first is that your resume is always changing. Always changing. I work on my resume at least once a month. Even if I'm in the same role, I'm doing different projects, I'm doing different tasks, that I can update my resume and make it look better, because I'm a better person than I was 3 months ago in my role. So how have I been efficient in my role from 3 months ago? So your resumes are always changing, and you got to keep up with that. So I would work on your resume as often as possible just to keep it fresh, so when an application or a job that you see opens up, that you have an up-to-date resume and that you don't have to scramble last minute to make it look nice because you've been working on it. So make sure you always keep your resume up to date, because it does change. Now, with resumes, something that I don't like to see in mine, I don't like whiteness. So I like to make sure that the entire page is filled with words. Have as much black print as possible on the page, instead of having like a bunch of white on the sides and above. I try to fill my entire resume with information. Even if you only have a few jobs, just do a bunch of bullet points. What have you done in that job? List them. And your bullet points, please don't make them like 1 word or 2 words. Kind of fill up, the space on the page. Show numbers. That's the strongest thing I can say to anybody. Show numbers. Show your efficiency. How many people did your project reach? Use that number. By what percentage of growth did the company have, or your project had? Or if you worked in an event in your job, how many people attended your event? There's a number. So numbers are very important when it comes to resumes. Another important thing is to make sure that you start off each of your bullet points with a verb. Created, design, led, worked. Verbs. There you go, there's some right there. But make sure that you do not use the same verb more than once. So if you use created one time, even if it's a different job, do not use the word created again. If you used worked one time as a verb, do not use it again on your entire resume. Try to think of different verbs for each bullet point. I think doing that adds more detail and diversity into your resume instead of saying worked this, 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 worked this. Also, feel free to not only, include your internship, job experience, but also include volunteer experience. Have you volunteered at events? Have you volunteered at a shelter or anywhere that you volunteered is important. So if you have space on your resume, feel free to put that on there because it does show a lot. And now with the education experience, where to put your education piece. Now, when I applied for a Disney Professional Internship, I had my education at the very top. I was still in school and I put my work experience below that. But I think that 6 months after you graduate, the education should go under the work experience. Like I said, that's just my opinion, but I think that, while you're still in school, show, I'm a so-and-so in major, put that at the top, and then your work experience, you don't have to do that. I know my resume right now, I have work experience above education. And well, that's pretty much all I have about resumes. There's not much to say because every resume is different. People have different jobs. I know my jobs are definitely different than your jobs, and so try to make it more customized to you and your experience. Now, on to cover letters, which cover letters are easier said than done. I get it, I know. It really is. But cover letters are such a huge part of job applications. And please, 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 please do a cover letter for every job. That's a question I get asked a lot. Do I have to do a cover letter? Like, you might not have to. They might not look at a cover letter, but honestly, somebody else that had a cover letter and you don't have a cover letter, they might get the job ahead of you because you didn't do a cover letter. So always do a cover letter no matter what, even if the job does not ask for it. Now, the length of the cover letter can vary between people. There's really no set length. It could be as short as you want. It could be as long as you want. Sometimes it could be like almost like you're writing an email length. It's just very different however you would like to do it. But the first thing in your cover letter, do not write, I want such and such job, or I'm applying for such and such job. Don't just start off with, bam, I want this job. Kind of like, be almost like a storyteller. Why are you interested? And then say the job. So find a connection. That's the biggest thing I like to say. I am a big storyteller and I think cover letters should tell a story. For example, when I was applying for Disney Sports, I competed at the ESPN Rivalry Sports as a cheerleader. And so that was my connection. I was able to be like, hey, I competed at ESPN Rivalry Sports. It was one of the best experiences of my life. I still remember that to this day, which is why I am interested in this internship. So that's kind of how I wheeled my way into it. I didn't just say, I want this internship with Disney Sports. I kind of like story told my way into that. So whatever position you are applying for, just try to find a connection with the company or a connection in that specific role in that company. Anything that you can kind of think of. It's all up to you. Find a way to make it a story. Now, the second part of cover letters, I think it's important to explain why you were qualified for it. And don't write like a whole page full of, I'm qualified for this, because I had this job. They have your resume, so they know what jobs you've done before. Show your efficiency. You do that in the resume, but I think it's very important to do that in the cover letter and to show, I have these skills, which I had during this job. For example, so I came up with this technique. I call it the 5-star cover letter, where I imagine a star and each of the points has a different thing. Let me explain. So the first point, the very, very top, I had this position. Second point, I was challenged and tasked with blank, or I had blank project. The third bullet is, what did I do to complete that task, to complete that challenge, to complete that project? That's the third task. The fourth task is, how did you not do it? Not what did you do, but how did you do it? Using what skills or anything, how did you do it? And the fifth point is, what was the outcome? What happened because of what you did to complete that challenge? For example, I wrote down a sample. This is, imagine me applying for a social media position. I don't know, video position, who knows. This isn't really that example, but it might make sense. Also, the points doesn't have to be in order. It doesn't. This example, it's not in order. So for example, while working with the Tadasherz company, point number 1, I was tasked with making YouTube videos that would be unique and innovative. That's the second point. Using my videography skills in movie editing software, that's actually the 4th point, I was able to create a new channel brand that would be seen by over 600,000 subscribers. Does that make sense? The points doesn't have to be in order, but my 5-star cover letter technique is to be what position you had, what challenge you had, what did you do, how did you do it, and what was the effect or outcome of that challenge that you had, that you did, that you overcame. That's like a sentence or 2. And you could do that with 1 job, you could do that with 2 jobs. Don't do that with every single job in your cover letter. But I think it's a really cool technique, and it does show efficiency in the jobs that you've had. And lastly, just end your cover letter with your email, your phone number, and just to say that your resume is attached. Very simple. And cover letters, a lot of people get scared to do them. They're afraid, how do I make my cover letter stand out from the rest? And I honestly think the storytelling will. How you connect with that position, that is what's gonna help you stand out. And like I said, it's gonna be different for every single person because everyone's gonna have a different connection to it. But what is your connection to that position? So that's pretty much all the advice I have. I really hope this helped. Like I said, I am not a recruiter. This is just advice that I have been giving myself. This is just advice I made up, like that 5-star point thing. I made that up. That's just something that I think is really cool to use, and I think it has been beneficial for me. And so I want to help you all get the jobs that you've always dreamed of. So if you have any more questions or, you know, need advice on applying for either a Disney job or any job in the world, please leave a comment below and I will be sure to answer that. I hope this video helped, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Bye!